4, we will comprehend the word serenity and we will know peace. 5, no matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. 6, that feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. 7, we will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in ourselves. 8, self-seeking will slip away. 9, our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. 10, fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us. 11, we will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. 12, we will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Are these extravagant promises? We think not. They are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. They will always materialize if we work for them.
Thanks, Caroline.
Thanks, Caroline. Thanks, Caroline. Thanks, Caroline.
Awesome. And now I'm going to call Lester up to the stage. I guess it's the stage. To introduce our speaker to you.
What are y'all laughing at? My name is Lester, I'm an alcoholic. Life will take on new meaning to watch people recover, to see them help others, to watch loneliness vanish, to see a fellowship grow up about you, to have a host of friends. This is an experience you must not miss. We know you will not want to miss it. It is a pleasure and an honor and a privilege to introduce Richard tonight as our speaker. I've gotten to know him over the past several years, and I can tell you, I have not often seen a man with as big a heart and as much commitment and love for the program and humility for the program of Alcoholics Anonymous and the gifts that it's provided him in his life. And it's a pleasure to see him freely give those away and to join us on this road as we trudge this road of happy destiny. So I look forward. I've heard his story before. He does a great job. He has a lot of experience. He is a powerful example of this program. So, Richard, come on, bro.
Move this back up. I'm Richard, and I'm an alcoholic. Try to keep those so I don't move around everywhere. My sobriety date is 4/6/17, and for that, I am as grateful as I know how to be nowadays. I do have a sponsor. Matter of fact, Lester is my sponsor, and I appreciate him for what he's done for me over the last few years. I've worked steps out of the big book, Alcoholics Anonymous, as they're laid out in the pages of 164 with a sponsor, and I continue to work those in my life daily. And I'm sorry, I'm not really nervous right now. It's just more of a little overwhelmed with what Lester said and being in front of my family. Because as much as I have blood family, they do not understand me the way the people in this room do. And I would not, and I guarantee you I would not, with what I've gone through the last couple of years, it wouldn't be for a lot of people that are sitting in this room and they know who they are. I would not be here tonight. There's no doubt in my mind. I'd have found a drink or something else to take me out. And I'm going to take this jacket off. This program, I'm not trying to, I'm not taking anything else off of it.
Come on, man. Yeah, I thought you was keeping me.
So, I normally, when I start off my story, I like to start off with this. For any of the newcomers in the room, and maybe some people that are coming back in the room that have been out for a while, there's something I like to talk about at the beginning of my story. And what I ask is if anyone in this room to just keep your ears open tonight. Because it's been my prayer tonight that if nothing else, one person walks out of this room tonight and they can take something away. And if it's just nothing more that because they sat here and listened to my story and didn't drink for an hour, that's good enough for me. Because it is about not taking that next drink. But I know a lot of newcomers have a problem. This program is a spiritual program, not a religious one. Look it up in the dictionary and you'll see there's a big difference in between the two words. You can be spiritual and never be religious. You can be religious and never be spiritual. And I know about the second one. I can testify to that I was religious for a long time and had no clue what it meant to be spiritual. And the reason I say that is that a lot of people have a problem with that higher power. That second step has nothing more to say than I came to believe that a power greater than myself can restore me to sanity. Doesn't tell you what that power has to be. It just has to be something that's not you. Bill in his story we agnostics, he uses about 9 or 10 different words for a higher power. That higher power is of your concept. It's what you put together. You don't have to believe in anything other than what you put together, and just believe it's not you and it's a power greater than yourself. And I say that because I know some people that have come in this program and they have a problem with the word God. That's what I call my higher power. You ain't got to call your higher power that. That's just the way it is, and because that's what I call my higher power, and that's what works in my life. Whatever you call yours, as long as it's not you, hey, more power to you. That's what the program's about. I'm in this program to help you stay sober. I'm not here to preach you anything. I'm here to help you stay sober. So I just wanted to get that out of the way, so hopefully that'll help somebody tonight to be able to hear what I have to say. So what it was like, as far as my family goes, I was raised in the upper middle class family. I probably saw my mom only drink 2 times in my whole life, and my dad maybe 3 times. And the times I saw my dad drink, one time he had a mixed drink. I know he didn't finish it. The other 2 times he had 2 beers and went to bed because he was tired, and we've been working out at a job site all day. And he just needed it to wind down, and he could do that. My mom, like I said, I know she had a glass of wine, and the other time is when I had my very first drink. So if anybody ever meets my mom, do not tell her we're to hear the story, because she would blame herself. I know the way she is, because she taught me a lot of my character defects. So I don't want her to ever hear my story, because she'd blame herself. But and it's not her fault, because this is just who I was. But anyway, I was 8 or 10 years old when I had my first drink. We'd been out, it was July or August, it was a 100-degree day. And we'd been working, and back in the late 70s, we had the mowers with the bags on them. We didn't mulch. We put everything in a bag, and there were big, black, hefty bags, and you could get 2 of these things in there. Being a little guy at the time, it was everything I could do to pick those bags up, put them on a little wagon, and take them over. But when we got through mowing that day, my mom and the next-door neighbor lady, we'd been helping each other get the yards done, and they went and got a 6-pack of Lone Star long necks. And so they're sitting out on the curb in front of the house drinking. And I bugged my mom enough that she finally lets me have a sip of beer. And so as soon as I take it, I like start staggering around, falling down, acting a fool, slurring my words, because that's the way Otis acted, right? She gave me another one, and I did the same thing. Now, the thing that I couldn't pretend there, the thing I wasn't putting on a show is that I can remember to this day taking those 2 sips of beer. And I remember how the way it made me feel. It made me feel different. Now, I wasn't drunk or anything like that, but I liked the way it made me feel. We get through mowing, getting everything done, and they get through with the beer, and one, I think was probably my mom, didn't drink half of one of those beers. Well, I took that 6-pack, and she told me to throw it away. I didn't throw it in the garbage can where we put all the garbage. I hid it down in between 2 bags. And like I said, this is mid-August. And y'all, I think Mike's sitting here shaking his head. He can remember those bags used to get hot and sweaty. And if it was, 100 degrees out there, those bags probably got 110. Just the way it's, I don't know how it does it, but it does it. So we went in the house, got cleaned up, and 3 or 4 hours later after we had dinner, because my mom wouldn't let me come out and play because I knew that beer was there. After dinner, this stuff had been sitting out in the heat for 3 or 4 hours. I came out and I got that beer, and I slammed that beer. And, when Bill says in his story he had arrived, I had arrived. I was like, this is good. Now, like I said, the drinking wasn't prevalent in my household, so for the next several years, I didn't really get to drink. Probably I was 14 or 15 before I had got to drink again. My brother, who was probably one of us, He's 3 years older than I am, so I knew if he had the cooler in the back of the truck and it was sweaty, there was probably beer in it. So I could usually either sneak one or two from him. And back then, being 14, 15 years old, not drinking, a couple beers was good enough. It got me to where I wanted to be. But I didn't, at that time, I'm going to say, probably for the next 30 plus years, I was a hard drinker. I probably could have quit at any time. As a matter of fact, a little bit later on, I'll talk about quitting for a while. That's where I was. Once I was able to drive, the thing I discovered, so when we would go out, and just for example, if we had a 6-pack of beer, I guarantee you, before you finished your second one, I was finishing my third and I was getting the fourth one of the 6-pack. I drank different than all my friends. I looking back on it now, I see that. I drank differently than my friends. And then once we could get, like I said, once I got to be 16, we could drive. It was easy enough to get beer because if you knew the right store to go to, and if you're willing to tip $5, hey, you could get whatever you pretty much wanted in these stores. But we didn't always have the money to go get beer, so we didn't drink all the time. But I drank when I could, and when I drank hard. And then I discovered in the teenage, I did hardly went to any parties because after my first party, I go to my first high school party where there's drinking, and I knew I was like, man, I'm gonna get drunk and go have a good time. And I'm walking up, me and my buddy, park my truck, we get out of the truck, and before we get halfway to the house, the cops are there pulling up. And they're like, turn around, they go, have you been drinking? No, they smell us, and they're like, go home. So we turned around and went home. Well, the second time I went to a party, I get in the backyard. I've got the solo cup full of beer. The cops come. Me and my buddy, the same guy, that's my best friend, and I hung out all the time. I throw the beer one way. We go over the fence. He lived like 4 or 5 houses down on that. Probably his parents were the one that called in because it was getting loud and crazy. And we went down and hid in his backyard and just sat there and talked for 2 or 3 hours till the cops went away and walked around and got my truck. We went on and did something for the rest of the night. But in my mind, it wasn't that, we're going out and getting drunk and getting stupid. It's just because there's a lot of people there. So that's the way my mind was. And so I didn't do a lot of damage outside of my close friend group. When I drank, I was usually with close friends, people that would take care of me. And if I did something stupid, really didn't care. I had the same thing when I got out of high school, went in the Marine Corps. We go to the infantry school, and the first time we get Weekend Liberty, we go down to the San Clemente E-Club. And right before, when I turned 18, I can't remember if it was that year or the year before, the drinking age changed to 21. The thing most people don't know is, and it was this way back then, I don't know it is this way now, if you're 18 and on a military base and in the military, you could get beer. So we could drink beer. So we go down to San Clemente Club. Whole platoon's going down there for drinks and being fresh recruit, just out of recruit training. We're first time together, and there's some Navy people there, and Danny's shaking his head. He already knows what's going to happen. Fight starts, and we were already told it was not good for us to come back and get drunk and get in fights. So me and 3 of my buddies, my fire team, we go, San Clemente's got this big porch on the back of it, and there's some rocks, and there's a beach, and you go out to the Pacific Ocean, and that's what we did. And we swam. I don't know how we survived the night, I swear to God. Because we went out in the ocean, we swam up, went north for a little while, found another beach, climbed up some more rocks, and I don't know why it is on the Marine Corps base, but there's bus stops out in the middle of nowhere on these roads, and I guess it's because stupid people like us do stupid things. We are soaking wet. I can't remember what time of year that was, probably March, out in San Clemente, California. We were cold. But the bus stopped, and they're like, what happened to you? We decided to go swimming, so they're like, get on the bus, and that was the best thing in the world, we got on the bus. So after that, like I said, getting in a big group and drinking, I knew that wasn't for me. A little more example of how hard of a drinker I was when I did drink. when I was I went into law enforcement a few years later, and in the morning I worked night shift. I'd get up in the morning and get home in the morning before I went to bed. I get a Solo cup. Everybody loves Solo cups, right? Red Solo cup, full of ice. Pour vodka over the top of it till it reached the top, just enough room to squirt some lime juice in there, stir it up, and that's what I had before I went to bed. Normal people, in my opinion, don't drink that way. But like I said, at this time, that obsession hadn't kicked off. The mental obsession, the physical allergy had not kicked off. I could probably quit at any time, but I didn't. As I go on through my life, I drink, I went to work back for my family. We'd meet, 2 or 3 times a week and drink. And about 2010, I quit drinking. I had some surgery. I kind of lost the taste for a lot of things, and alcohol was one of them. And in that from 2010 to 2013, in a 3-year period, I had 8 12-ounce beers, 4 16-ounce beers, 2 whiskey drinks. And only one of those times, or 2 of those times, did I drink 2 of those 12-ounce beers together. Other than that, they were all solos. Who remembers shit like that? As somebody was wanting that. As I look back, that's what I was wanting. I was wanting to drink, right? But the thing I do, and this recently, remember this, I was a miserable SOB in that 3-year period. I cannot remember being that miserable. Now, this is a part of my story. I know it's not part of AA. I never really did the outside dishes, but I think it was 2011 or 2012, I had a massive panic attack. And with that came the medication. I think it was clonazepam or Xanax, one of those. I had that script for the next several years. And since I'd been about 24 years old, I had hurt my back severely. I had herniated 2 different discs in my lower back, and that came with some major pain medication. And I always had that, but I always believed in my mind I'd have a 30-day script and it would last 45 to 60 days. So I really never abused that, but I did once I got to drinking, and I'll tell you about that a little bit later on. So in 2015, thereabout, I was running our family business. Oil field had gone to crap. There wasn't a whole lot we could do. So got with my parents. My dad was semi-retired, but he stayed involved in the business, and we decided to sell the business. A lot more goes into the story, but it's really doesn't have to do anything with my drinking. So we decided to sell the business. Well, by that time, I was drinking more on a regular basis. Still did not have, in my opinion, the physical allergy or the mental obsession. But I drank to change the way I felt, and when I drank hard. I might not be drinking to blacking out and passing out at that time, but I drank hard. I drank very hard. Well, that night after we decided to close the doors of the business, I know I'm going to be all right financially. Not that I'm going to be as well off as I was, but I knew I was going to have a job when I come out on the other side, because I'd already looked into 2 or 3 different people buying us out. They all offered me jobs. Some were better than the others, but I knew I'd have a job. But I was a little distraught because it's what, there was really nothing I could do, nothing we could do. And I left that night. My wife had taken on a job because I'd taken several pay cuts trying to keep the business afloat. Matter of fact, there was times I wasn't taking paychecks. I was doing what I had to do to keep the business going, and I was like, it was done. So I go, well, I know where her and her friends go to drink after work. I'm just going to swing by there. And I swung by there all right. And I caught her cheating on me, in the act of cheating on me. And that kicked off a lot of emotional pain for me. Matter of fact, 2 days later, I decided I was going to go meet some friends on the way home, and I was going home and cook dinner because we said we were going to try to work it out. And, well, I did my best to destroy everything then. I went to have those 2 beers, and after I had that first one, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours later, 9 o'clock or so at night, 10, 12 beers, probably a few whiskey drinks, I can't remember. Phones blowing up. I knew I had a problem because there was no defense. After I took that first drink, I was going to keep drinking. Got up the next day and I said, well, maybe that was just a phenomenon. Got off work, bought a 6-pack, and I knew I drank one and I was like, I just had to have more. And that physical allergy it talks about in the mental obsession, it kicked off because that whole day after I thought I had a problem, I knew I wanted to have a drink as quick as I could. I wanted to have that drink to change the way I felt because I was in so much emotional pain. And for the next 18 months, that was my life. I was drinking. When I started drinking, I was going to drink until I either passed out or there wasn't any more. Once I started. And for the longest time, I could wait till for a little while, I could wait till 5 o'clock in the afternoon when I got off work. Well, that progressed to, I can make it till 3 o'clock. And then I progressed down to noon. To the point there at the end where if I woke up, I had to have a drink. Just to fight the DTs and the night sweats and everything that I was having. In that time period, I can remember several attempts to try to quit. I've told this story in meetings before, but I think it's such a good example. I go, well, if I can quit for 10 days, I'll be all right, and I can go back to drinking, and I'll be able to taper off. Well, I make it 7 days of that 10. Well, I go, well, I made it 7 days. Well, I can try 7 days. And this whole time, the drinking's just getting worse and worse and worse. And I make it 5. Well, then I made it 5. I said, well, if I can make it 5 days again, then, I can extend this out to 7 and 10. I can keep extending it out, and I'll be able to get this. Well, my 5 days turned into 3. And so I was like, okay, well, I can make it 3 days. And I remember the morning, that was the first morning I was supposed to get up and make it 3 days. I was already pretty much in the 24/7 drinking period. And I was like, I'm not going to make it 3 days, and I want that drink because it could kill the pain that I'm in right now, right? And that's what I did. I started drinking that day, and from then on, I never really attempted any way to quit because I knew I was destroying my life. Had no moral. That's the thing that got me is I had no moral values at all once I started drinking. The things I did, chasing women and everything else and the way I went about it, and I just didn't care. I was married, still thinking, well, I'll try to make this work, but I'm not doing stuff that no man should do that's married to another, to a woman. And I did that shit, and I'm ashamed of it still today. It's one of those things that's very hard for me to forgive because that was one of the biggest things in my life is that when you were with somebody, and you were faithful. And once you broke that, I thought, well, that was just my way to do it. But the alcohol let me be the way I wanted to be. And it's not who I was. And for the longest time, like I said, the alcohol was taking the pain away until it didn't. And I don't know when that quit working. So I get to the point that I'm drinking 24/7. The book talks about us that alcohol affects the alcoholic differently. A lot of people get depressed when they drink. I don't. I get wired. I'm ready to fight. I'm ready to do whatever I can do. And I also had the phenomenon of alcoholic insomnia, which means I drank, I couldn't sleep. And not unless I passed out. And I used to say I drank until I couldn't get none, passed out or blacked out. Well, I know I drank when I blacked out. So if I couldn't pass out, I was screwed. And if I quit drinking and then the emotional pain comes back. But at some point in there it quit working. It really did quit working. And I'm going to say for 2 or 3 months, I desperately wanted to quit. I did everything I could, but I couldn't because I had that physical allergy and the mental obsession. I physically had to have the alcohol to keep the DTs away. I'm in physical bad shape, but as long as I can take a drink. I was able to work and stuff like that. When I go into work, well, that's when I would take one of my anxiety pills, which I could get through a few hours with that. But I really loved it when I could drink on top of it, because then, for a while, that was taking the pain away again. But it really wasn't. It wasn't doing anything to really, truly take the pain away because I wasn't dealing with the problem. So I desperately want to quit. I can't quit. And Saturday, It was a Saturday before I came into the program. I started drinking that Saturday morning. I don't know how I did it. I stayed in beer and bourbon for the next 3 days, and I did not sleep. I did not sleep. I drank for 3 days straight. And I got that Tuesday morning, third day, I was down to 1 beer, and I got a moment of clarity going, you got to get some help or you're going to die or you're going to go crazy. And I used to say that was what really brought me in, was because I didn't want to die or go crazy. No, I wanted to get rid of that emotional pain somehow. And that's what really got me in here, was that emotional pain. So I called my boss, and I said, hey, I need to meet with you. It's like 7 o'clock in the morning. I need to meet with you. I finished that beer off so I could get stable. I drove up there. I said, asked him to meet me in the parking lot. He's like, no, you can come in the office. I said, no, meet me in the parking lot. I drove up. I told him I was alcoholic and I was going to get help. He says, well, all right, I'll see you in a couple of weeks. I said, no, I'm in bad shape. I don't know how long I'm going to be gone. So I told him, I said, I've got 2 weeks of vacation, burn it. I went across the street. I worked out in Waller at the time. I went over to Buc-ee's, parked my truck at Buc-ee's, and started calling my sister. I didn't dare call my wife because she could probably go, she'd have went, take it and shove it, because you can go do what you want to do. I don't want nothing to do with you. Probably not the appropriate thing of texting my kids and telling them, hey, I'm an alcoholic. I got to go get help. I'll let you know where I end up. And I start blowing my sister's phone up. She was a teacher. She still is a teacher, but it was like 7:30 in the morning at this point. I start blowing her phone up because I know she had class starts at 8. She happened to accidentally look down. Her phone was already turned off. She saw it was me, and there was a bunch of missed calls. And she goes, Richard, what's up? And I said, look, I'm an alcoholic. I need help. And if somebody don't come get me pretty quick, I'm going to start drinking it again. I'm going to take what money I got, and I'm gone. I can't stick around where I'm at anymore. And she says, stay where you're at. It'll be at least 12 o'clock before I get there, because it'll be 12 before I can have a sub in here. And I'll come get you, and we'll get you help. And I think I might have had a beer, I can't remember, just to settle myself down. And for the first time in 3 days, I slept. And I slept like a rock until she beat on my window. She started knocking on my window. I got up. I always kept a go bag with me with a couple of days change of clothes in there. I grabbed it and went to her house. She said, well, I called up she called her doctor. She told him that the park would probably be the best place. And I had an appointment for the next afternoon. Slept. I was miserable, but I slept until I think noon the next day when she took me over to go to the park. I remember sweating. I was in my nephew's bed. He'd already moved out and was in college. I was sweating that bed through. I was in the DTs. I was shaking. It was awful. That's where I'd gotten to. I get to the park, and God bless the nurses over there. And I think nurses are the greatest people in the world. I don't care what anybody has to say. I think they are. Intake nurse sees me when I walk in, and she's like, I'm just hurting. She's like, Mr. Hart, I know you're hurting. She says, I've already contacted the doctor. As soon as we get you inside, we'll get you get you some meds that'll help you settle down. And I was like, okay. So I wrestled through that, and then I get in there, and she walks me straight up to Nurse Feelgood. She gave me a Valium, and I thought that was going to be the greatest thing in the world. I'm like, hey, man, I'll do 30 days of this. It makes you feel good. Yeah, but that lasted for 3 days until all the symptoms of the DTs, and they weaned me off that, and I was like, okay, well, life is hitting. But it really was a good place. It got me off the alcohol. But when I got into the park, I had a God moment happen to me when I got in there. So my first day in the park, after all that, got checked in and everything, I happened to meet a man by the name of Chris. He'd been in the park for about 14 days. Chris was a recon Marine. Matter of fact, a MARSOC recon Marine. If you don't know what a recon Marine is, if you know what a Navy SEAL is and what a Green Beret or guys from the unit, Delta, That's basically what they are. They're on that echelon, if not, in my opinion, probably more so. So they're some of the mentally and physically toughest people that are out there. Chris had been in the park for 2 weeks. He was checking himself out at AMA, and he was going to go to OP. He was checking himself out because he had a major business deal the next day. It's kind of like the story in the book, but this is the gospel truth. He was a money manager. He's got a big deal he's got to do the next day, so he's AMA and going to go ILP. He's in good shape. He's ready to go. So Chris checks out, and I'm going, that's the plan I'm going to be on. This is day one. I'm going to give him 2 weeks in here. I'm going to do IOP, and I'll make 1 or 2 meetings a week. They said, making meetings is kind of important. That's what I'm going to do. I've got my plan. So 10 days later on Friday afternoon, I hear Chris's voice. And I'm like, oh, he must be up here because this is like the alumni meeting at the park. I hear Chris's voice. And I'm like, he must be up here from the meeting. He's up in the common area. And I walk down the common area, and I hear Chris's voice, and the man that's sitting there, I don't physically recognize. If it wouldn't be for his voice, I would not have known who it was. In 10 days, he changed that much. And he told me, I finished the deal, made a lot of money, and they decided to go have a drink. He said, I thought I could have a drink. He says, I don't remember much after that day. And it scared the hell out of me because I know this man is mentally and physically tough as any person on this planet. And I'm going, how in the hell am I going to do this deal if he can't do it? And that's what I needed to do. That's what I thought I needed to do. Well, that day, I had the alumni meeting that night, and I'm sitting over there, and we got the patients on one side of the room. We got the alumni coming in, and these guys got anywhere from a few months to 20 plus years sober. And I'm going, you idiot. Every time you needed to learn how to do something, whether it's shooting, anything, driving, whatever you did, you always found the best person out there that knew what they were doing to teach you how to do this. Why don't you get one of those guys over there, like they say, get a sponsor and work this program? Why don't you do that? Well, so that night I actually got my very first sponsor. That was such a God moment that, because I was already getting ready. I was already checking into what I had to do to AMA Monday, because that's Monday I wanted to be back with my life. That was such a God moment. Now that I look back on it, that He did that for me. That was God doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. My first sponsor is another one of those moments, one of those aha moments that I go up to a man after the meeting. I knew who he was. He normally came up to every noon meeting. He was at every noon meeting Monday through Friday and made 3 or 4 of the meetings at the 7 p.m. meetings in the evening. I knew who he was. He chaired some meetings. I liked what he had to say, what he was doing in the program. I went up to him after that meeting that night, and I said, hey, Dave, will you be my sponsor? And he actually goes, well, I've got a couple guys in the book right now. And he goes, well, one of my sponsees actually just fired me. And he says, yeah, I'll take you through the steps. And that he was a perfect man for me to take me through the steps at the time. Dave was actually a teacher and a athletic trainer at one of the private high schools here in Houston. And the reason I say he was a perfect guy for me, we would not have mixed. For us to just come up and meet each other, I never would have picked him as a friend. Probably not a person, knowing who, what he did and stuff, I was probably going, no, I really don't, been friendly, but that'd have been it. With him being a teacher, he brought in the history aspect of the AA program. So when he took me through those steps, he was bringing the history into it. And with that, it kept me very interested in the program. And because I was so scared that if I tried to work this program, I made the decision with Chris, when I saw Chris at night, that I was like, I've got to work this program the way the people that are actually sober work this program, not the way I want to work this program. And so I was throwing myself into it. That I was, if you'd have told me I needed to, walk around the building with a black shirt and black, or white pants or whatever, and I'd have been doing it because I just wanted to stay sober. because I was getting that. Pardon me for a second. I got relief. I started getting relief from that emotional pain that I had. It might have been a little bit of the pink cloud stuff they talk about, but I was starting to get some of that emotional relief because I knew there was something going on better than I was. But he was also, with him being an athletic trainer, I've got very bad knees from stuff I was doing when I was in high school. I was squatting way too much weight, so my knees are all jacked up. I told you I'd herniated a disc in my back. Jumping out of helicopters and other stuff. And so he showed me how to do some PT to help that stuff, and didn't have to have I didn't have to drink or have to take a pain pill or anything like that. I could get by with taking a few Advil and Tylenol. It was really great for me doing that. And but there's nothing happens in this world that you have to take a drink over again. When I got out, I stayed 30 days in the park. I think it was 35 days. My ex called me up and said, "Hey, let's go to Whataburger and meet for dinner." And lo and behold, guy slaps down the papers in front of me, and I'm served with the divorce papers. Crushed me. Not that I didn't expect it, but if I didn't listen to what people said, like, get numbers of people that are sober, give us a call before you, go out and drink. I really didn't, at that time, I didn't want to drink at that moment, but I knew to pick up the phone and call my sponsor. And my sponsor answered the phone. I told him what happened. And he goes, "Look, I've been through the exact same thing. How in the hell did that, He goes, my ex didn't even wait for me to get out of the park. I think I was 2 weeks in the park when he got served. So he knew what I was going through and was able to talk me through it. And I had IOP that night, went to IOP. I was actually probably more along the lines of 60 days sober when that happened. So I go to IOP. When I get through, my brother-in-law had driven me up there that night because he must have knew what was going on, because he had suggested, "Hey, I'll drive you to IOP tonight." And I was like, I didn't put two and two together. And so I went to IOP that night, got out of IOP, and then my sponsor picked me up. He ran a sober house, a young men's sober house. Took me over there, and we sat in his room and talked for a little while. But that's how this program works. When somebody goes through something, if you can find somebody that's gone through it, they can talk you through how they did it and stayed sober through it. Another example of just how, this program works in such ways that I'm about 90 days sober, and I have 3 children. And my daughter, who was my youngest, she was 18 at the time, 17, 18, well, yeah, she was probably 18 at this point, 17, 18 years old. And she told me she didn't want to see me anymore. She didn't want to talk to me. And she had a couple guys, my quote-unquote, my friends, come over and tell me this. And so I was like, okay. Well, I left that meeting, and I was distraught. And this is the first time, I can't remember, around 90 days or so sober. And I wanted to drink then. I was distraught. I was crying. I was in emotional pain. The thought that, it wouldn't take the emotional pain away never entered my mind, but I wanted to drink. And the way I left where we'd met to talk is I went down, I made a right turn, and the place I used to buy my beer was up on the corner on the left. I leave out of that meeting, and I said, okay. My sponsor told me, call before you drink. I call my sponsor, goes to voicemail. I leave a message. I'm like, you need to call me pretty quick. My daughter doesn't want to talk to me anymore. She doesn't love her daddy anymore. I'm done. I said, I want to drink. Well, I followed the rules. As soon as I left the message, my next number, AA, is how I have, if you're in my phone, it says AA, and it's AA Charlie. My sponsor told me to get numbers of 4 or 5 guys that had time. Well, AA Charlie was the very first one when I pulled up on that list. It's AA Charlie. I called Charlie. Second ring, he picks up the phone. Charlie, I want to drink. My daughter just told me she don't love me anymore, basically. I've been told she don't love me. She don't want to see me anymore. And he goes, Richard, I've been through it. I got 2 daughters. When I got sober, they both told me the same thing. You tell me how that happened. I never knew that. Didn't call him for that. I just didn't want to drink. But I was going to. I know I was. And I didn't want to drink. But anyway, he told me, I've been through it. He says it's going to hurt for a little bit. He says, give her time. Keep doing what's right. Get through the steps. Do what's right. Keep doing what's right. He says it took one of my daughters about 2 years before she would talk to me again. The other one, we're still straying, but it took about 5 years with her. And he says it'll come back. It'll come back. And about 18 months later, my daughter contacted me and said, hey, Daddy, I want to call. So, this program, there's just so many miracles in this program, things that have happened to me. I'm sorry, there's so much. Once you get sober and you work these steps and you do what's right, so much good can happen. And I'm not trying to blow this thing up. Man, life is lifey. God, and I'll talk about that here in a minute. Life gets lifey. There's things that happen that are so far out of my control, and it gets crazy. But if you work the program, you do what's right, you get a sponsor, you get into this program, you get in the middle of it, and you have what I can truly call family sitting in this room. When you've got that in your life, you can get through anything. When I was about 2.5 years sober, by this time my daughter's talking to me again. We don't see each other as much as I'd like, but she's a full-grown woman. She has her own life. And my other two sons, my middle son, we're kind of estranged still, but we talk every once in a while. And my oldest son has given me 2 granddaughters, and I get to see them when I get the chance. And it is the life it is. But when I was about 2.5 years sober, 2.5 years, I was like, I really think I need to go through the steps again. I didn't know if I wanted to go through the steps with my current sponsor or if I wanted to get a new sponsor or just have a friend take me through them. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And God says, you really need to work the steps again. And you really need to work them with another man other than your current sponsor. So God says, well, my current sponsor comes up to me one night and goes, hey, I'm fixing to move to Kansas. I'm letting you know it's going to be about 2 or 3 months. Me and my girlfriend are moving to Kansas because we bought my parents' old home. And so I'm like, well, being 2.5 years sober, I am not going to do a long-distance sponsorship, and I need to get a new sponsor and work the steps. So I had 2 men in mind. I had 2. It was actually my great-great-grand sponsor and my one of his sponsees. And I'm like, I don't want to, how do I leave this in God's hands? And I go, well, the next one I see at a meeting, and I usually saw one of these men at least once a week at different meetings. And I go and say, well, the first one I'll meet, I'm going to ask, and if he doesn't have time, well, I'll go to the other one and ask. So I'm just waiting for the next time I see him. For 2 months, I don't see either one of these guys. I'm like, what's going on? And I'm about to the point to ask somebody else to be my sponsor, but I said, but this is the deal. And I told my current grand sponsor, I don't know if anybody knows David V in this room. He was my first grand sponsor, and I still have him in my phone that way. I didn't ask him to be my sponsor because we had become such great friends. He really helps me out in my life. I got to tell this quick story right quick. If you don't believe this program works, my dad died, it was about 3 years, got to have been 3 years ago, February. My dad died, and I'd gotten a phone call. I was at work, and I got a phone call going, hey, from my nephew's wife called me and goes, hey, there's something bad wrong with your dad. The ambulance is here, and they're getting ready to take him down to the hospital. And I was like, okay. So I left, drove over to the house. I didn't live about 10 minutes away. The ambulance already were left, and I knew it was bad when I got there. The ambulance was gone, and because I knew it was bad because the detectives were there, which means he probably had died in the house, or they knew he was going to not make it. So they were already getting prepared to do the report on the death. So I asked them how it was, and they said, you just need to go. So I'll get to the hospital. I didn't drive hard. I said a prayer, called my sponsor at the time, which was David at the time, and I get to the hospital. And as soon as I walk in, my sister's coming out of the emergency room, the room that he was in, and then said, Dad didn't make it. And they enacted the DNR. And I was like, okay. And I was cool, and it really didn't upset me a whole lot. My mom, I wouldn't go in the room for about 2 hours. I couldn't go in there because I knew, I just didn't want to. Well, after about 2 hours, I walk in, my nephew and a few other people in there. I go to my nephew. I said, "Man, I asked him to clear the room so I could spend some time with my dad." And I walk out after spending a little time with him. I said a little prayer. I walk out, and the first person I see is David V., my grand sponsor. He has made his way into the emergency room somehow. And it was the biggest joy in my life having him there. That was the first person I saw when I walked out of there. And David was like, he came up and gave me a big hug. And we walked outside and talked for a few minutes. And he goes, "Okay, there's a meeting over here at 8 o'clock tonight. Am I picking you up, or are you going to meet me there?" And I was like, "I'll meet you there." And that's the way that worked. But it was just amazing that, he walked in just at that right time, because I was really kind of lost it. Not that I was worried about a drink or anything like that, but it was just the support that was there. And there were several other people that knew me from my home group at that time that came up and said hi and just checked on me, and I got a lot of phone calls. But it was amazing. But so anyway, after 2 months, I finally I see Dominic, who became my second sponsor, at a meeting. I hadn't seen him the whole time, and I'd walked up to him and asked him to be, would he be my sponsor? And he goes, "Amazing that, I just had a guy just come, he just went out again for his third time." And he says, "I'll take you on." He says, I won't, he told me straight up, he goes, "If you're working with me, I'll work with you twice, try to get you through the steps twice. If we don't make it through the steps, and after the second time and you go back out, I'm going to ask you to find somebody else, because there's something not there that I can't pass on." And that's how Dominic became my sponsor. And he really helped me on the spiritual side of the program. And then after a few years, Dominic was working night shift, and he lives out in the Katy area. I'd moved out here to Tomball, and it was just a fit with Lester becoming my sponsor. And I am so proud that he accepted the responsibility and works with me and talks me through stuff when I need to. I know we're kind of getting close to it. But this program is amazing. I'm going to kind of end on this. Like I said, life gets life. About 2.5 years ago, I ended up losing a very good job. I got fired. I wasn't falsely accused, but it was really taken the wrong way. And I probably could have got my job back if I'd have really, really fought hard. But I decided to change industries. I decided I didn't want to supervise people anymore. It's a whole lot different from when I was younger man, and went into truck driving, and really got screwed by some people. I went to work for somebody for a couple months or a couple weeks. They didn't pay me at all. Went to work for another company. Truck broke down, and ended up having to get another job. Another guy didn't, after working for him for several months, my last week's paycheck, he didn't pay me, and I got in some really financial mess. Finally got on with an established company, worked for them, and didn't know that me and about 6 other guys were hired as extra peak drivers. And we worked for them from March to August, and then we all got laid off. And I ended up getting the current job that I got, and I got a pretty good job right now. Really, it's I just actually got a raise / promotion. I'm having to work a lot of more hours than I'd like to, but that's going to change here for too very long. But really got in some financial problems. I've had to mac out, in that time there was several months that I did not work, probably almost 8 months that I didn't work in those 2.5 years. It got me in some financial stuff. And that's where I say this family in this room. You guys saved me. I knew that if I'd lost my house and I ended up selling it, I moved back in with my mom just so I could, start saving up some money again. But going through all this financial stuff, I knew that I never went without. I was always going to eat. my family in this program. So somebody got a Christmas gift this year. I didn't have a whole lot of money for Christmas, but she gets a Christmas gift of the HEB containers because I'm not sure how many of hers I've got or hadn't returned, but I was wanted to make sure that she got a few of them again. She got a pretty good load of those because when I go over and get to eat with these guys, I can bring something home. And like I said, I never went without. The nights I didn't, Friday nights when I didn't have the money to go eat, people made sure that I could go out and eat and not miss being with my family. And what's amazing is I don't know if I'm gonna go ahead and say a couple weeks ago something happened and I was getting a little distraught and it was amazing. God did something for me, and I never thought I'd admit to this, and I can't believe I'm fixing to say it out in public, but this might help somebody someday. I'm fixing to have to file Chapter 7. But it's the best thing in the world for me to be able to I'll be able to get back on my feet. It's not what I want to do. It's not by no means, but after I talked to a lawyer and told them what was going on, they're like, you're crazy if you don't. I'm like, I don't want to do that because I was looking at some other options. And they're like, you're crazy if you don't. And they're like, you're one of the few people that we've had come in here that truly deserves to do this, that deserves this protection. And I was like, no, I don't. And I was talking to my sponsor, and the thing is I don't know if anybody else is this way. I have a hard time forgiving myself and believing I deserve something that I get. And while this is not what I want to do, and I'm not proud that I'm going where I'm going, but the thing is that I thought of the drink is not coming to my mind. God's taking care of me. It's where I've got to go. I'm getting back, I'll be able to get back to a better part of, my life. But there's one thing I hadn't talked about this in a meeting in a while. And I used to talk about it a lot when I first got sober. And it's being in the moment. And for me, being in the moment means I've made my plans for the future. I'm gonna, whatever that I need to do in the next step to take care of that plan, I'll do it. But because I've made the plans, I know I'm on a path. I don't have to worry about what I got to do in the future because I've got the plans for it. And as long as I'm cleaning up the wreckage of my past, I'm willing to clean up the wreckage of the things that have happened in the past, I don't have to worry about it. And I'm actually able to be in this moment, like here in this meeting right now, in this room with people that love me. I can get a feeling that no matter how much I drink, I could never get the feeling that I get when I'm truly in the moment. I wish I could have it all the time, but it doesn't happen because life gets lifey. And then I want to try to control it, and I got to remember who I am, that I'm not in control. I am not that higher power, and that my higher power's got this. And I ask, like I said, keep working this program. Don't give up before the miracle happens. If you're new in the program, if you've been in a while and there's something going on, don't dare just try to shoulder the burden by yourself. Talk to somebody because we're all here. We all love you, and we'll do anything for you that we can if it's going to help you stay sober. So thank y'all for your time tonight, and I appreciate y'all.
Thank you, Richard.